Hello my dear students, we are going to study the properties and also the chemical reactions within matter. So these are the basic three branches of chemistry. See, if you have gases, it can be converted into a liquid by cooling or by compressing them. I stir it, how much ever I stir it, after some time sand will settle down, but I am not changing the identity. Water is not undergoing any reactions there. If you measure a person's weight in earth and in moon, they will be different. Hello my dear students, I am Priyanka Rajaram from Vidyashram PU College, Temple of Excellence. Today I am going to start with the new chapter, some basic concepts of chemistry. In this session, we will be learning about what is the importance and scope of chemistry. Also, we learn about matter, classification of matter and about SI units. So, we will see what we have. First, what is the importance of chemistry? What is chemistry? Chemistry is a branch of science that studies the composition, properties and interaction of matter. You are going to study the properties and also the chemical reactions within matter. Okay. Now, chemistry plays a central role in science and is often intertwined with other branches of science like physics, bio, geology, etc. What is the meaning? Chemistry is usually called as general science also because we have physics in chemistry, we call it as physical chemistry. We have some concepts from biology and we have biochemistry. We also learn about the elements in detail, we call it as inorganic chemistry. Also carbon containing compounds, which we call it as organic chemistry. So there are different branches of chemistry and what you can observe is other subjects are also intertwined here with chemistry. Like we have physics, bio and geology, mathematics, etc. What is the importance of chemistry? In our daily activities, we have chemistry in everything. Okay? How? See, role of chemistry in human activities, if you see, it's there in food, shelter, clothing, also to maintain good health. It is there in industries. Also, it may cause pollution. Also, for the same pollution, we have answers in chemistry. So, where is chemistry used? We'll see some of the points I have put up here. You can see it is used in manufacturing of fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides which we use to grow our food. Also, alkalis, acids and salts. It is there in manufacturing of dyes, polymers, drugs. Okay, drugs like cisplatin and Taxol are effective even in cancer therapy. Then we have manufacture of soap and detergents. We have metals and alloys. Also, we can get safer alternatives to environmentally hazardous refrigerants like CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbons, which is responsible for depletion of ozone layer. Also, production of superconducting ceramics and conducting polymers, optical fibers and large scale miniaturizing of solid state devices is possible due to understanding chemical principles. Correct? Now, what are the challenges and what is the scope of chemistry in future? There are so many industries which are producing, you can see there are so many industries which is producing so many different types of products, which is leading to pollution and imbalance in ecosystem. Am I right? Yes. Now, for all of this pollution and the imbalance in ecosystem, chemistry is blamed first because the pollutants are all chemicals is what we get to know. but also the solution for this is in chemistry itself. That is, we can prepare or we can produce so many substances which can be eco-friendly with the help of chemistry. So this is the biggest challenge which we are going to face in future, to produce eco-friendly products with help of chemistry, so that we can save ourselves from pollution as well as we can save our Mother Earth. Okay, so are you ready to face this challenge? For that, you need to know the basics of chemistry and also understand all the principles which is involved in chemistry. So going forward, we learn the different branches of chemistry. Broadly, we have 3 branches. There are many more, but broadly we have 3 branches: physical chemistry, organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. So what is physical chemistry? It's a study of physical and fundamental basis of chemical system and processes. Okay, we are going to measure different physical properties, okay, in physical chemistry for different elements during a reaction, or it can be thermodynamics, it can be chemical equilibrium, or we are going to learn about the structure of atom. All this comes under physical chemistry. Next we have organic chemistry. It's a study of structure, properties and composition mechanisms of carbon compounds. Okay, we are going to learn in detail about carbon compounds. Usually they have carbon and hydrogen bond, okay, in organic chemistry. Next, inorganic chemistry, it is the study of properties and reactions of elements and their compounds other than carbon compounds. So other than carbon compounds, in periodic table we know we have so many elements. So we are going to study about the structure, about their physical as well as the chemical properties in inorganic chemistry. Okay, so these are the basic 3 branches of chemistry. Next, we are going to learn about what is matter. What is matter? Matter is something that occupies space and have certain mass. It has mass and it occupies space. Now, it can exist in 3 forms, that is gases, liquids and crystalline solids, or solids I can tell. Okay. Now, what are gases? The particles in the gases are free to move. They do not have a very strong intermolecular force of attraction. Correct? Okay. So, that is about gases. They have total disorder, that is the particles are very free to move. Much empty space. You can see there are a lot of empty space in between the particles which is there. Particles have complete freedom of motion and they are far apart. Okay, that is in gases. But what about liquids? Here also the particles are disordered form, that is there is no perfect arrangement of the particles. They are free to move, but particles are close together when compared to gases. Okay, and they take the volume of the container, or they take the shape of the container in which they are poured into. They have a definite mass. Okay, now also next is about solids. Solids have a definite mass, they have a definite volume, okay, they have a perfect shape, and also they have ordered arrangement of particles and they are in their fixed position. Particles are very close together. You can see the particles are very close together. Now these different forms of matter can be changed from one form to other. Okay, so if you have gases, it can be converted into a liquid by cooling or by compressing them. Okay, liquid can be again converted into a solid by again cooling them further. Okay, same way, if you heat a solid, it can become a liquid. If further heating or reducing pressure, you can also get a gas. So we can interchange from one form of matter to other by certain processes. Fine. So next we have classification of matter. Matter is broadly classified as mixtures and pure substances. Okay, mixture and pure substances. Mixtures are further classified as homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. Pure substances are further classified as elements and compounds. So let's look into each one of them in detail. First, what are mixtures? Mixtures contain two or more substances in it in any ratio, which can be called as components. So in a mixture we have two or more substances. These substances we are calling them as components. So two or more components, when it is mixed together in any ratio, we call them as mixtures. Okay, for example, I'll take a cup of water and dissolve 1 spoon of salt in it. That is a mixture. What you have? Two substances or two components, water as well as salt. Okay, for the same cup of water you can add even 1 spoon of sugar and dissolve, then the number of components are increasing. We have 3 components we have, that is water, salt as well as sugar. Okay, so these are mixtures. Got it? Now mixtures are of two types, that is homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. Or the example what I have taken, that is a cup of water which is having 1 spoon of salt dissolved in it. It is a homogeneous mixture. What is it? It is a homogeneous mixture. Homogeneous mixtures are those in which the components are completely mixed with each other and the composition is uniform throughout the solution. The composition becomes uniform throughout the solution. You cannot separate out to tell there is salt is different and water is different. When you dissolved salt in water, the entire composition, okay, is same throughout the solution. Salt is there in full cup of water. Okay, and such mixtures where you cannot separate salt and water separately until they are called as homogeneous mixtures. Example, you can have sugar solution, air, sodium chloride solution or salt solution. Okay, where it is uniform throughout. You see a cup of water with salt, it is uniform throughout. To look also it is uniform throughout. When you taste also it is just salty water or sugar solution if you have taken sugar in water. Okay, such mixtures are called as homogeneous mixtures. Next we have is heterogeneous mixture. If I have just taken a cup of water and add some sand into it, I stir it, how much ever I stir it, after some time sand will settle down and you can see the lower portion is sand, in the upper portion you have water. Correct? Here the uniformity is not there, or the solution is not uniform throughout. Correct? There is difference. You can make out two layers very easily. That is, you have salt, that is, you have sand and water which is separated out. Correct? Such mixtures are called as heterogeneous mixtures. Okay, so a mixture in which the components are not completely mixed with each other and the composition is not uniform throughout the solution, not uniform, then we call them as heterogeneous mixture. Mixture of salt and sugar, you take some salt and mix it with some of sugar. Okay, the composition is not uniform throughout. Okay, same way you mix grains and some of the pulses, again it will not be uniform throughout. Or you just take sand and mix it with water. Okay, it is not uniform throughout, or they do not mix with one another easily. Such mixtures are called as heterogeneous mixtures. So next we have, what are pure substances? Pure substance is a form of matter with definite constant composition and distinct chemical properties. They have a constant composition. They have to be mixed with a particular ratio. Okay, and they have a distinct chemical property. So pure substances, example we can take copper, silver, glucose, etc. Glucose, I can tell it is C6H12O6. Copper, only copper metal we have. Silver, only silver metal. If you take their properties, copper react in a different way, silver will react in a different way, even though both are metals. There is some distinct property which is own for copper alone and which is own for only silver. Okay, similarly glucose also have a distinct property, okay, in which you have 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms and 6 oxygen atoms. When mixed together, they have a separate kind of properties altogether. Okay, carbon alone can have a different property, but carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in 1:2:1 ratio, they will give glucose, which is having a separate property altogether. Okay, so such substances are called as pure substances. Okay, pure substance can be further classified as elements and compounds. Now what is an element? An element consists of only one type of particle. It consists only one type of particle. These particles may be atoms or molecules. Okay, they contain only one type of particle. It can be a single atom or 2 atoms or 3 atoms together, it can form a molecule. Okay, for example, we have helium. Helium is monoatomic. That means it will exist as single atom. Okay, helium is only made up of helium atoms. Next, hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms, H2 we write. It's a molecule, but it is only one type of atom which is present. That is, only hydrogen atoms are present in hydrogen gas. Correct? Next, oxygen gas, or it can be chlorine gas, in which oxygen is made up of only oxygen atoms. Chlorine is made up of only chlorine atoms. So this is a chlorine molecule, this is an oxygen molecule, this is an hydrogen molecule. So if it is made up of only one type of particle, then we call them as element. Okay. Next we have is compounds. When 2 or more atoms of different elements combine to form a molecule of a compound. Here you have 2 or more types of elements which is mixed together in a particular ratio to form a compound. Now if you see, water contains 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Correct? Will form water, H2O. Water is having a separate type of properties when compared to only hydrogen or only oxygen. Oxygen alone has a distinct property. Hydrogen alone, only hydrogen has a distinct property. But when hydrogen and oxygen is mixed in 2:1 ratio, I'll get water which is having a separate property. So when the elements or atoms of different elements combine with one another in a perfect ratio, a molecule of a compound is formed. Example, water, nitrogen dioxide which has got 1 nitrogen atom and 2 oxygen atom, carbon dioxide which has got 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atom. So these are some of the examples for compounds. So I hope you understood what is an element. Element has got only one type of particle. Okay, it can be an atom or it can be a molecule. When different atoms of the element combine with a certain particular ratio will give rise to a compound. Okay, next we have to learn about properties of matter and their measurement. Now what are the properties of matter? Properties of matter can be of 2 types, that is physical property and chemical property. What is it? It is physical property and chemical property. Correct? What do you mean by physical property? Property of a substance which can be observed and measured. Okay, it can be observed or measured without changing the identity or composition of a substance. Then we call them as physical properties. For example, I want to measure the boiling point of water. correct? Here water will remain as H2O itself. I am not changing the composition of water. I am just using a thermometer. I am boiling it to find out what is the boiling point of water. So I am just finding out the temperature at which the water will boil. Okay, but I am not changing the identity. Water is not undergoing any reactions there. So such properties are called as physical properties, correct? So there are many types of physical properties: boiling point, melting point, it can be density, its mass, etc. Okay, what do you mean by chemical property? A property of a substance can be observed or measured only after you change the identity or allow the reaction to happen. Only then you will get to know its property. Such property is called as chemical properties. Example, combustion reaction. You are allowing a substance to undergo combustion. So you know what will happen during the reaction, combustion reaction, or it can undergo, whether it can undergo reduction reaction or whether it will undergo oxidation reaction. So you have to allow the substance to react there. Only then you can tell this is the exact chemical property of a particular substance. So such properties are called as chemical properties. So here what we have is some of the base physical quantities and their units. Unit is a definite magnitude for measurement of a physical quantity. Okay. Now for example, we have 7 base quantities which is chosen by International System of Units, which we call it as SI unit. The International System of Unit was established in 11th General Conference on Weights and Measurements. Okay, and such that system of units we call them as SI units. Now let's see which are the 7 base quantities of measurement. First is length. Symbol for the quantity is L. Name of the SI unit is meter. Okay, so we use the standard measurement of length is meter. Okay, and the symbol for SI unit is small letter m. Next physical quantity is mass. Okay, mass symbol for the quantity is m, whereas the SI unit is kilogram and the symbol is kg. Next we have time, small letter t for the symbol of the quantity, measured in seconds, small letter s. Then we have electric current, I, measured in amperes, capital A is the symbol for the SI unit. Then we have thermodynamic temperature, capital T we use for temperature. Kelvin scale is the standard scale of measurement and capital K is the symbol for Kelvin. Amount of substance is N and the standard of measurement is mole. More about this we are going to study, and symbol is MOL. Last is luminous intensity, IV, measured in candela and the unit is CD. Okay, so these are the 7 base physical quantities and their SI units. We'll come across few of them, not all. You'll be studying more in detail about this in physics. Okay. Next we have prefixes used in SI system. So why do we have to use prefixes, or what do you mean by prefixes? In SI system, a large or a small magnitude of a physical quantity is expressed by using prefixes. So what are these prefixes and how exactly it is being used, we learn further. So we have, if it is a multiple of 10 to the power 24, we have 10 to the power 24, the prefix which is used is iota. 10 to the power 21, it is zeta. 10 to the power 18, it is exa. 10 to the power 15 is beta. 10 to the power 12 is tera, 10 to the power 9 is giga, 10 to the power 6 is called as mega, 10 to the power 3 is called as kilo, and 10 to the power 2 is called as hecto. Here you can observe it is all having a positive power here. Exponent is positive. Okay. Next, if it is having a negative exponent, then 10 to the power minus 1 we call it as deci, 10 to the power minus 2 it is centi, 10 to the power minus 3 is milli, 10 to the power minus 6 is micro, 10 to the power minus 9 is nano, 10 to the power minus 12 is pico, minus 15 is femto, 10 to the power minus 18 is atto, and 10 to the power minus 21 is zepto. Other than this, you will also have to know 10 to the power minus 10, which is called as angstrom. It's called as angstrom. Okay. Now, which are the most important ones which I need to remember? Do I have to remember all of this for my first PU? No, not exactly. I shall just highlight the ones which is very important for you all to remember. Here you will have to remember 10 to the power 6 is mega, 10 to the power 3 is kilo, 10 to the power 2 is hecto. Okay. Symbols are not all that very important to remember for chemistry, but here in these multiples you have to remember 10 to the power minus 1, which is called as deci, minus 2 is centi, 10 to the power minus 3 is milli, 10 to the power minus 6 is micro, and 10 to the power minus 9 is nano. Okay. And also 10 to the power minus 12 is pico, and also 10 to the power minus 10, which is called as angstrom, is very important for you all for chemistry. So these many if you all remember, that is sufficient. Okay. So next we have definitions for some of the physical quantities. First one is mass and weight. What do you mean by mass and what do you mean by weight? Mass is amount of matter present in a substance. How much of a matter is present in a substance is called as mass. Okay. But weight is the force exerted by gravity on that particular object. It is the force which is exerted by gravity, gravitational force which is exerted on a particular object is called as weight. Okay. So mass means how much of the substance is there, or what is the amount of matter present in a particular substance. Okay. What is weight? Weight is a force of gravity which is exerted on that particular object, that is weight. The mass of a substance is constant. Wherever you measure, the mass of the substance will remain constant, but weight may vary from place to place. This is because the variation in gravitational force. Okay. So if you see here, weight is a measure of effect of gravity on an object. Correct. So if you measure a person's weight in earth and in moon, they will be different. Why? Because moon has less gravity, the weight will be different there, and here the gravitational force is more, that is on earth. Whereas mass, if you measure in both earth and moon, it will remain the same. Okay. So mass on earth and moon is same, whereas weight will differ because the difference in gravitational force. Okay. So that is about mass and weight. Next we have volume. What do you mean by volume? Volume has a unit, length cube. What is a volume? Length into breadth into height. Correct? Length, breadth as well as height if you take. Okay? We call it as a volume. So we can tell it as length cube is the SI unit of volume. In SI system, volume has unit of meter cube. Why meter? Because length SI unit is meter, length cube, so we are writing it as meter cube. Okay. Also you have to know something. In chemistry, we use different apparatus to measure the volume of solutions. It can be a graduated cylinder, or it can be a syringe, or it can be a burette, or it can be a pipette, or it can be a volumetric flask. Okay, so it can be in ml, milliliter, or it can be in liters. Okay, or it can be cm cube or dm cube. Now what is the meaning of all these units? 1 liter is equal to 1000 ml. We all know about it. 1 liter is equal to 1000 ml, and 1000 cm cube is equal to 1 dm cube. 1000 cm cube is equal to 1 dm cube. More about interconversions I will explain further. Okay. Next we have is density. What is density? Density of a substance is amount of mass per unit volume, or I can write the formula as density is mass by volume. Mass by volume. So it is amount of mass per unit volume. SI unit of density is kg per meter cube, because for mass it is kg, for volume it is meter cube. So it becomes kg per meter cube. Okay. Now what is this I have shown here? Low density and high density. If you observe, both of these cubes have a same volume. Volume is same. Then what is that it is differing? You can see the amount of substance inside. Here it is less, but here the mass, the amount of substance is more. Correct, no? So when the mass increases, density also will increase. Okay, here you can see the difference when the volume is constant and when the mass is differing. If the mass is more, density will be higher. If the mass is lesser, density will be lesser. So that is about density. Next, we have temperature. We have a perception of hot and cold, and this can be measured as temperature. Correct? So temperature has 3 common scales of measurement: degree Celsius, degree Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. Okay. Kelvin is taken as the SI unit, and the temperature on the 2 scales are related to one another. That is, first we learn the relation between degree Celsius and Fahrenheit, and then degree Celsius and Kelvin. So there are 2 relations which are possible. First one is, if you know degree Celsius, you can calculate degree Fahrenheit by using this formula. Degree Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 into degree Celsius plus 32. Okay, so you can convert, if you know degree Celsius, into Fahrenheit. Of course, if you know the Fahrenheit, you can also convert into degree Celsius. We'll be solving the problem on this. Okay. Next is Kelvin scale, which is related to Celsius scale. See, it's not related to Fahrenheit scale. Kelvin scale is related to Celsius scale by Kelvin is equal to degree Celsius plus 273.15. If you have degree Celsius, just you have to add 273.15, you will get the Kelvin scale temperature. Now, for convenience, if you see further, we will not be using this 0.15. Just for convenience, okay, we will be adding 273 to degree Celsius scale to get it in Kelvin. Okay, so here you can see freezing point of water 0 degree Celsius, whereas in Fahrenheit scale it is 32 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, similarly boiling point of water is 100 degree Celsius, but in Fahrenheit scale it is 212 degree Fahrenheit. Fine. So we have different thermometers to measure. Degree Celsius thermometer is separate, degree Fahrenheit thermometer is separate, but if you know one of these, you can interchange the units and you can always tell in Kelvin or degree Celsius or Fahrenheit. You just have to measure in one of the thermometers. Okay, so that's about temperature. Next, just a small conversions which you need to know to understand or to solve some of the numericals further in physical chemistry. So which are those conversions you really have to understand? See, what do you mean by 1 milligram? Milli means what? It is 10 to the power minus 3. So 1 milligram is 10 to the power minus 3 grams. What is it? 1 milligram is 10 to the power minus 3 grams. Similarly, 1 gram is equal to 10 to the power minus 3 kg. What is it? 1 gram is equal to 10 to the power minus 3 kg. Or you can put it in other way also, that is 1 kg is equal to 1000 grams. So 1 gram is how much? You just have to cross multiply. If you find it difficult to remember this way, you can also remember it like this. So 1 kg is 1000 grams. So 1 gram is how much? So it will be 1 into 1 by 1000. Divide by 1000 is nothing but 10 to the power minus 3 when it goes to the numerator. Okay. Next, 1 milligram is how many kgs? It is 10 to the power minus 3 into 10 to the power minus 3 kg. 1 milligram is 10 to the power minus 3 grams. What is 1 gram? 10 to the power minus 3 kg. So you have to multiply 2 times here. Got it? Next we have, what is 1 dm cube? 1 dm cube is 1000 cm cube. Or in simple words, dm cube is nothing but liters. 1 liter is how many ml? 1000 ml. And what is ml? ml is nothing but cm cube, what we have used here. So it is nothing but what we have written is 1 liter is 1000 ml. Okay. Liter ge innondu tara helodu decimeter cube or dm cube. And cm cube is nothing but ml. Okay, 1 cm cube is equal to 1 ml, which we have written here actually. 1 cm cube is equal to 1 ml, 1000 cm cube is equal to 1 liter. 1 liter is nothing but 1 dm cube. Okay, now what is 1 dm cube? See, 1 dm cube is 1 dm into 1 dm into 1 dm. What is deci? 10 to the power minus 1. So it is 10 to the power minus 1 meter into 10 to the power minus 1 meter into 10 to the power minus 1 meter. So if I multiply all this, the powers gets added up. Here it is 10 to the power minus 1 plus minus 1 plus minus 1. So minus 1 plus minus 1 plus minus 1 is minus 3. So 10 to the power minus 3 meter into meter into meter is meter cube. So 1 dm cube is equal to 10 to the power minus 3 meter cube. So you got a relation between dm cube and meter cube. Okay. Next, 1 cm cube. 1 centimeter into 1 centimeter into 1 centimeter. Centi means 10 to the power minus 2. So 10 to the power minus 2 meters into 10 to the power minus 2 meters into 10 to the power minus 2 meters. Here again 10 to the power minus 2 plus minus 2 plus minus 2. See, all the powers gets added up. Okay. Minus 2 minus 2 minus 2 is minus 6. So 10 to the power minus 6. Meter, 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 if you multiply, you will get it as meter cube. So 1 cm cube is equal to 10 to the power minus 6 meter cube. So I hope you have understood some of the conversions. You need not by heart it, but you really need to know it when you are solving the numericals. If you ask me for the exam point of view, directly will the question come from this? No, directly they will not ask any questions based on the conversion. But of course, these conversions will be important for you all to answer or to solve the questions which comes on different chapters in physical chemistry. It will be helpful for you all even for your competitive exams. Okay. Last one is 1 atmospheric pressure is equal to 760 millimeter of mercury, or it can be also written as 76 centimeter of mercury, or in Pascal scale we can write it as 101325 Pascal. Okay, or we can also put it as 101.3 in kilo Pascal. Okay, so these are the different conversions of non-SI unit to SI unit which you need to know. Next class, we will be learning about scientific notation, precision and accuracy, and significant figures. I hope you have understood today's class. See you next class. Thank you very much, children. Stay focused, stay curious.